meta formations, that's not the 4-2-1-3. We all know the 4-2-1-3 is one of the best formations inside the game. But is there any tactics that's not the 4-2-1-3 that you'll be surprised that's genuinely up there or sometimes on the same level as the 4-2-1-3? It can also depend on how you play. And actually, some of you guys might like a narrow system and you might like that more than a 4-2-1-3 that will work better off for you. So one of the first I want to go with is the 4-4-2. Although it is a high tactic, I kind of got this video idea. Actually, I was in Boris' stream. Shout out to Boris. Make sure you always check him out. Boris Legend, one of the OG goats. And he was talking about. I was saying to him, I'd rather have fun than play the game and abuse the game. But formations like the 4-4-2, the higher level you are, the better you'll play with this formation. Don't get me wrong. I would say have a combination of a 4-2-1-3 and a 4-4-2. That is what would be ideal. But to be honest, if you played a 4-4-2, if a pro played 4-4-2, they'll still get rank 1. But let's say you played 4-4-2, it's much more fun to play, but you'll probably concede 1 or 2 more goals. This is the formation that the higher skilled you are, the better the formation works out for you. Most people can't play a 4-4-2 for the entire aspect of the game. That's why every single week, when I give you a weekly tactic loadout, I always tell you the pressing tactic, but that's not your tactic for the entire game. It's like people that just aimlessly copy the codes and they use a tactic and they cry, oh, why is it not working for me? They don't understand it. But the 4-4-2, one of the best attacking formations and one of the best pressing. As I said to you, the better player you are, the better it will work out. One thing I wanted to throw out there was the 4-2-2. I love it. I've always loved it since day one. I actually like this more than a 4-4-2 because you still have the lamb and the ram. You see now I made this convert into a 3-5-2. We're just talking about this staple 4-2-2 here. But make sure you check out, I'm going to leave my little picture that you can see from my channel with the 3-5-2 video. But make sure you check out that video out. But 4-2-2 in itself is really good because you still have 2 CDMs. So you have that protection. So if you like to play the 4-4-2, but you don't want to be overly aggressive and you still want to keep your CDMs, because let's be realistic, a lot of the average player, a below rank 3 player without CDMs, the truth is they will struggle. So if you are looking for a formation that plays like a 4-4-2, but you want that stability, the 4-2-2, in my opinion, is still, I would say, at least minimum in the top 7 formations. You can argue even top 5. I think it's very, very good. You can use that, or you can use the 4-4-2 second variation, a formation that I never see anyone actually play. But the difference between this and this is just CDMs. Why would you prefer the 4-2-2? The cams sometimes are a bit better as shadow strikers, and the formation is a bit more narrow as opposed to the 4-4-2, which is a wider formation. So if you do like the 4-4-2, you have the direct brother, you could argue, just with just center mids. This one has CDM instead of center mids. Then we have the 4-4-1-1. Now, actually, if you look at the shape of this formation, what's this formation very similar to? It's actually the 4-2-1-3. The only difference is that you have here center mids as opposed to CDM. So if you really like, let's say you're sitting and you're like, you know what, no, I really like the 4-2-1-3, but I want it to be a bit more attacking, but I still want the cam, I still want the striker and a left mid and right mid to both have inside forward, then right here, just like this could be a perfect setup for you because you still defend in that 4-2-3-1 layout. The difference is you have CDMs as a center mids as opposed to CDMs. Why this is more beneficial is center mids, they help you attack. They're closer. So whenever you're in a final third and you like to bring the ball back, or you like to rotate the ball, think about how many times you go down the wing in the wide wing areas. See if I could draw this out, right? But imagine you try to go into the wide wing areas, you're attacking, you're going down the wing, and you swing the ball back in the inside. You ever found that your CDMs are a bit too far away? Use L1 triggers to bring them close. That's what pros do. But if you don't do that, center mids, they sit higher, which will give you that availability to use them and make them more involved in the attack. So if you like the 4-2-1-3, I think the 4-4-1-1 also is a top 7 formation. It's almost identical, with the only difference being is you don't have the CDMs that normally sit traditionally deeper, as opposed to CDMs as opposed to center mids. Another formation you could also use that actually doesn't get the credit, not the 4-1-2, narrow form, all the narrow. I'll give you a quick tip now. All the narrow formations, it's very hard to play unless you're a top tier player and you understand, for example, when to move these players out of position. But trust me, when you have a 2v2 down the wing up against a good player and you got to move your right center mid all the way, all the time, it can be a bit of an issue, especially someone just mechanic abusing down the wing. But another formation you can use is even the 4-3-3 defending. I think it's a very good formation for a more defensive stance compared to the 4-2-1-3. What's the difference between this and the 4-2-1-3, guys? It's just you have a center mid here as opposed to a cam. So if you wanted a more defensive formation, the 4-2-1-3, you didn't hear this from me, you could use this one, which is basically the exact same system, and you could put this into holding defend. But again, you didn't hear that from me. But that would be, you can argue, a defensive variation. Maybe I should release the best of the 4-2-1-3 layout. Maybe actually I will do that this week, actually, the best of the 4-2-1-3 layout. So make sure you tune in for that video on Friday. But also a very, very meta formation is the 4-2-4, basically identical to the 4-4-2, left wing and right wing, a bit more attacking. Don't forget in the winger formations, like let's say for example, well, all the three backs you cannot use because out of position they suck basically. But another formation is the 4-2-3-1 narrow. And in fact, I'll tell you something here. I think the average player, maybe not the average player, I think most of you, I think 50% of people that use the 4-2-1-3 will actually prefer to use this formation. Because the formation is a bit more narrow. Not everyone likes to get the ball down to the wing areas and abuse those going down the wing, going for the cutbacks, or bringing the ball back inside, or doing those travellas. Sometimes people like the narrow systems, and you see. Also, don't forget, pro players use this 4-2-1-3. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I forgot his name. Team Hullet, you know I'm talking about. Levy, that's what I believe. He still uses the 4-2-1-3. As you can see, you still retain both the two. What's the difference between this and a 4-2-1-3? The only difference is the left wing and the right wing. You have a lamb and a ram. And you could argue with certain instructions, they're actually better. Or you can actually make it like a 4-2-1-3 with half wingers as well. So these are all the few things you got to take into account. Yes, inside forwards are really beneficial, but I'll be honest, have you ever tried 3 of these players on a shadow striker? Now, don't get me wrong, this is very attacking, but for you guys that are ranked 3 and above, I would highly recommend trying this with shadow strikers. The counter attack threat is there. It's that you're just a bit more narrow. Your left wing and right wing are not as wide, and then you can take advantage of the half spaces in between your opponent's defense if you like that, especially if you've got plus players, someone like Zidane, one of those free cards, it works very, very well as well. Arguably as well, the 4-2-3-1 wide, it's a bit more on the defensive side. The only caveat is with right mids as opposed to wingers, is that you can't do an inside forward roaming. Not many people use it. I think Anders use it, a few other people use it. I love using it. I told you my favorite instruction. But you've got balance and attack, but you haven't got roaming. And that is why I'll tell you, one of the most underrated pressing formations, while we're on it, I might as well finish off with this one. Everyone says 4-4-2 is the best pressing formation, and that is partly true for all aspects of the game. But you know what the best formation for pressing is? Is this one. Left wing, right wing. If you have the ability now, this is very, very high level again, but I think it's important that I mention this, because don't forget, these players are going to be on stay forward, and they're going to stay forward the entire time, and they're not going to come back to help you defend, and you're going to be stuck with 2 centimeters in your back foot, almost left to your own devices. But if you wanted a pure, I want to press the ball high level, win the ball back, manual pressing, and dart the ball forward to the left wing and right wings, this can be a very viable option. So those are just some of the best formations, honestly, inside the game. People always think, I think the 4-2-1-3, for its all-around use case, goes at number 1. But the best pressing formation is this one, or the 4-4-2. Definitely not the 4-2-1-3. 4-2-1-3 is decent, but you want center mid as opposed to CDM. So realistically, although the 4-2-1-3 kind of encompasses everything, and if you had to just choose one formation inside the game and just that one formation and you couldn't change, then yes, in theory, the 4-2-1-3 is the best. But it's actually a different formation for a different aspect. If you want the best press formation, you'd want this one. If you wanted one with the best wing play, you'd go with something like this. So it actually does depend on exactly what you're looking for. But that's just some quick tips on some of the best formations. If you want to get better FC, come to my Patreon. So it's patreon.com/no guys. If you don't get buffed the 1 month refund your money, we also started the Division 10 to Elite Division series, where you can see entire gameplay, every single game from Division 10 to the Elite Division. We've got the controller on the screen. You can see what we're doing, basic gameplay. So you, the person at home, can learn how to get to Elite Division so easy with just the basics of the game. No need to mechanic abuse. Anyway, thanks for watching. Take it easy. Catch you next time. Peace out.